Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and welcome back to Elite Dangerous. Today I'm going to try a Robigo run, that's the shadow deliveries or smuggling as it were. I want to make myself a whole bunch of money. Now I've got about 55 million here, but I'm going to need to increase that quite significantly. I want to head on out there and get myself a new ship. Now as you know, I use an Asper lot. In fact I've got two of them, one laying about on somewhere else in the inhabited space. I've also got a Cobra and a Vulture somewhere, well fitted Vulture actually, and an Imperial Clipper, but it's about time I think to get myself a bit of a larger ship, something a bit more expensive and something a bit more powerful. Now at the moment I'm looking at an FTL or a Python, and hoping actually to be able to get the Python and get it relatively well outfitted for PvE. But for the build I'm looking at, I'm going to need around 150 to 160 million, and of course I still want a whole bunch of money left over. If I go out there and sell my Asp and sell my Vulture, I should have about 30 million to add to what I've got at the moment. But, well, I want to get some more money, and one of the quickest ways of doing that at the moment is to do a bit of good old slave smuggling. Poor old slaves, but, you know, let's get the money. So, I've filled up my transaction tab here with a whole bunch of missions. I think I've got somewhere in the region of 10, and it should give me a nice round 20 million, or maybe 25 million if I'm a bit lucky. Now unfortunately on this particular case I wasn't paying enough attention to my heat and just wanted to get through these jumps as quick as possible, trying to avoid the interdictions and whatnot. Now usually a little bit of overheating on the jumps doesn't cause too much problem, but in this case it was going to cause me a bit of more of a problem than I was actually expecting. Now minor damage to modules and the hull really isn't a problem because after all you're only out here in space for a relatively short amount of time, but it's when those modules actually start failing that you can have some issues. Generally speaking, when some of the modules fail, it's not really too much of a problem, at least because you're not out here too long. But when it's your cargo hatch and you've got your cargo hold full of slaves, well, they tend to disappear off into space. As if things aren't bad enough for these poor people, they have to be spaced as well. Of course, this means that I'm not going to be able to complete all the missions that I've actually got in my transaction tab. I think I lost somewhere in the region of between 5 to 7 slaves there, so it's probably about 2 missions worth that I'm not actually going to be able to complete. Now, all in all, it doesn't really take too long to do these missions. It takes about 15 odd minutes, maybe 10 minutes if you're quick, to get from the centre of inhabited space out to Robigo in an Asp with a jump range like this one, and then it takes probably an hour or so to get back and then distribute all the slaves to their various destinations. Now here's the thing, it would seem that it's quite possible that these long distance slave runs are coming to an end sooner rather than later. Now Robigo isn't the only place you can do these, you can also do them from Mountain of Obsidian Orbital. In fact, any station that is a significant distance away from an inhabited space will give these high value missions. A lot of people have taken advantage of this fact and made themselves many hundreds of millions, in some cases billions. I've never really taken the chance to make a lot of money off them myself. I've done a couple of runs in the past, but well, before they end I'd like to make myself a bit more money. Now there's no guarantee they're actually going to come to an end, but in the current beta, that's beta 6 of patch 2.1, it would seem that the long distance slave run-ins are no longer there. Now that may change when the patch hits the live servers, maybe they'll come back again, but who knows. After all, Frontier were known for trolling a little bit with these particular missions. There was an image, you can see it in the video description below, I've linked it, where the bulletin boards were saying smuggle the slaves for the fun of it. Every single slave running mission had that same title. Nice little joke or troll from Frontier there. But however it goes, for now at least, the missions are still there and they're still paying out on the live servers. So that's the first lot done. Time to head on to the second lot and the rest of them as well. Now generally there's not too much risk on these particular missions. If you get scanned by a system authority vessel, it will actually cause all of these missions to actually fail. So that's one thing you do have to avoid. You're also quite likely to get interdicted by a pirate or some type of person opposing the fact that you're smuggling slaves. And these people will actively pursue you and shoot you and try and totally destroy you. Now if you're used to doing the jumps as often as I am from system to system, you've got a pretty efficient at jumping. You'll charge your jump drive up as soon as it's ready to go, just like this one. And that really does reduce the opportunities to be interdicted, but it still does happen, sometimes a lot quicker than it actually happened here. Now here I tried to align with the next system to jump again, but it didn't work and I got myself interdicted. In an Asp like this, there's not really much chance you're going to have of being able to defend yourself. I've only got class 3 shields on here as well, and you can see the 2 ships there that want to attack me. So at this point my only opportunity is to try and escape and outrun these ships. This is something that's still quite easy on the live build, but on the beta servers it's a little bit more difficult. The enemies take down your shields much more quicker, and they're also significantly faster with their various drive upgrades. Now I think what's also happened here is that some authority vessels have jumped in here to try and defend me. Now if that system authority vessel actually scans me, then it will cause all my missions to foul. So neither of those outcomes are particularly desirable. Like I say, the best option is to try and run, and now I can finally recharge my FSD and get the heck out of here. But let's have a quick look backwards and see just how close they actually are. You can see they're shooting me, but I'm about to get into hyperspace and get away from them, hopefully for good. Now, some people do question the morality of smuggling slaves. What do I say to that? Well, to be honest, I'm not that much of a role player when it comes to that sort of thing. I just want to make as much money as quickly as I can, and to be perfectly honest, I don't get a lot of time to spend in the game. And even on this occasion, I had to do this one run across multiple play sessions, so when I get an opportunity to make money like this, I'm not going to say no. But on the morality side of things within the game terms, I would like to see a few changes within the game. It would be quite nice if you keep doing these sorts of runs, you become known as a slave runner, and that some ports actively turn you away, and that you get pursued by system authorities for a significant amount of time after completing these missions. After all, at the moment the rewards for these missions are very high and the risks are very low. Now, rather than Frontier just removing these missions, what I'd like to see is, like I say, there being a significantly higher risk, not just on the mission itself, not just being pursued, but in that you getting a bit of a blank mark against your name. Perhaps depending on where you smuggle these slaves, you could lose significant reputation within those particular superpowers. For me, anything that makes the game more dynamic and more alive is not a bad thing, and hopefully, well, maybe one day in the future that's the way the game will head. For now though, rather than improving things, the debate seems to focus on whether or not these missions actually pay too much. But regardless of your opinion on that matter, you can see that I'm now 20 million better off, and it's only taken me a little bit amount of time to do this, and I'm that much closer to getting my FTL, or hopefully my Python. I'm going to head back to Robigo now and to see if I can't smuggle myself a few more slaves. And there though, just before I do that, you can see there's one mission I'm going to have to abandon because, well, I lost a few too many slaves when the cargo hatch failed. There will be a fine for that, but it's nothing too significant. Like I say, the whole balance of risk versus reward is perhaps somewhat out of whack at the moment, but nonetheless, here I go for a couple more runs. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time. Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant, and I'm out here on what I feel is a particularly important mission. Jack Station wants to jump, and it wants to go to the newly renamed Beagle Point, one of the furthest points we can currently reach within the entire galaxy. This monumental undertaking will take Jack Station over 60,000 light years, and would at last give all commanders a refuge out there in the deep void of space. I don't know how long the station will be there for, but it will represent the furthest any station has ever travelled. And for a station to travel that far, it requires serious resources, and with that in mind, Jax has enlisted the help of the Fuel Rats, the player-run search and rescue group that has assisted many thousands of commanders.